a socialist communist who is now going to be the next mayor of New York City. And it actually scares the pants off of me, Libby, whenever I hear Alex Soros, son of George Soros, praise him, because these are not people we want doing anything, having anything to do with any functioning of our country, because they're bad, evil people, and they just perpetuate misery and chaos wherever they can. Here's what he said. He posted on X, "So proud to be a New Yorker. The American dream continues." Libby, this is what he said about Mamdani's win. Well, what kind of American dream is that? That is I've never heard of this one, where you are anti-Semitic, where you put down the cops, where you want to defund the police, bring in social workers, make your city less safe, government run everything, free everything, running out the top, 1% of earners in the city, the ones who pay the bulk of the taxes to fund all of this stuff. That's not America. That's not the American dream. That's the USSR dream, circa communism. President Trump has said that George and Alex Soros should be prosecuted under the RICO Act. And this is, of course, due to their support for these violent protests that we've seen all across the country, whether the ICE protests as of late or the Summer of Love riots back during 2020. So do you think, Libby, is this the American dream, Mamdani becoming New York City's next mayor?
No, I think it is definitely not the American dream. And he said as much in his victory speech that night when he claimed victory. He thanked Uzbek nurses and Trinidadian whoever and a bunch of cab drivers who are also not from America. And in his speech, he talked about single moms. He talked about grandparents. I'll tell you who he did not talk about. He did not talk about fathers. He did not talk about families. He didn't mention these words once. He did not talk about America, not the nation that he became a citizen of less than 8 years ago. He did not talk about Americans. He did not talk about native-born New Yorkers, the majority of whom completely and entirely reject these proposals that he has. And he did not talk about American citizens at all. And he did not talk about any ethnic group that could contain within it any white people at all. He just mentioned everyone else, because his plan is to turn New York City into a foreign place for everyone else that is not for America, that is not for New Yorkers. And I think that it's really, really important to recognize that. He doesn't believe in America. He doesn't believe in New York City. He believes in power, and he believes in maintaining that power. He believes in, taxing the 123 billionaires in the city, which is the most billionaires in any city in the world, to the point where they can just go live in their other homes and pick their other homes to be their primary residences. They won't have to pay it, and they'll still be able to hang out in the city. I think it's really, really damaging. And I don't know how New Yorkers voted for this, except that the majority of the New Yorkers who voted for this are foreign-born New Yorkers or transplants to the city. It's not actual New Yorkers who voted this man into office. And these are people who don't have deep roots in the city and can leave at any time. I think of New York. I lived in New York most of my adult life. It's my ancestral homeland. My immigrant ancestors came to New York over 100 years ago, and they grew up there. They started businesses there. They, created their families there. And I don't think that New York City is going to be a place for Americans in the very near future.
It's really scary. And, usually, Liz, whenever someone wins an election, they want to bring everyone together. I think back to, I'll say, the early hours of November 9th, 2016, when Donald Trump shocked the world and won the election that we knew he should win, that there was enthusiasm out there that the polls weren't picking up. But what I always look back to is what he said in that moment. And he essentially said, I don't want to just be a president for the people who voted for me. I'm going to be a president for everyone. And now is a time for our country to come back together. I want to heal the wounds that have been created over the course of this election. That's what you want to hear from someone who is a leader. But it seems like Mamdani did the different path. He basically got out in front of the cameras after the win and sounded very, it was a lot darker, I think, than we'd heard him speak. He sounded a little threatening. He certainly sounded threatening towards Donald Trump. And whenever you talk about safety in the city, in the weeks leading up to his win, which looked inevitable, you saw the polling, we saw that he was beating every other candidate handily. You had 250 NYPD officers resign in the weeks leading up to his election. And whenever you talk to the folks at the NYPD, they say morale is down because everyone is concerned about the policies Mamdani wants to put in place. You have a person who's supposed to be running New York City who does not believe in law enforcement. Every single month, they say they're losing more and more officers. We've seen people resign. I think there was a fire chief who resigned as well because he was Jewish. This is the beginning of something very, very frightening happening in New York City. If this guy is only there to represent the people who voted for him, as it would seem based on his, victory speech, if you have the best and the brightest of the NYPD resigning because they don't want to serve under this guy, where does that leave New York, Liz? We knew this was probably going to happen, but now that it's happened, it's really frightening.
It is, and like you said, we called it. We talked about it right here on the show. We said this was probably going to happen. I mean, it's sad, but also the irony is not lost on me. You asked Libby, is this the American dream? It kind of is. It's pathetic that he immigrated to this country and became mayor of one of the greatest cities in the world, and he didn't thank America, because that is the American dream. This is the only country where your ideas and your hard work can make you a mayor like that, and it doesn't matter where you come from, what nation you come from, what language you speak, or what you believe in. If you get people to support you and you work your butt off, you can become anything in America. And to think that he didn't literally thank America, knowing that it was only possible here, knowing he left Uganda for a reason, knowing so many people like my own parents come here for a reason and thank America in almost every single sentence that they speak when they talk about their life. It was actually shocking that he didn't. And you said, I mean, it was a really scary speech. I think Van Jones said it that night on CNN. He said, this is not the Mamdani I expected to see, not that smile that he's so famous for, that charming smile. This is somebody else. And he didn't waste any time in becoming that somebody else and letting people know who he stood for. He didn't mention that those cab drivers and those nurses all fled probably to come here because America is the greatest place on earth, and he's running for them as if they didn't stand up and come here and risk it all because they loved America. It's very strange. It's very ironic. It's very sad. And again, when you see, the best and the brightest, the people that risk everything every day to protect us, when you see NYPD officers saying they're not going to serve under someone like that, it is very scary. I've seen New York change the last few years. I've seen less and less officers on the street, but also morale. You mentioned morale is important. I mean, they get up and risk their life every single day. And if they don't want to do that, if they don't feel like they're being respected, they're going to stop. They're going to quit, or they're going to leave to another city somewhere else in America where they are respected like they should be, because they're police officers and they're law enforcement officers, and they do literally the toughest job in the country and get nothing for it. In fact, they get spit on for it in New York City. So I think it's disgraceful. I think it's so sad. And again, his mask slipped off really a few minutes after winning. I don't think he even cared to keep it on any longer. It's sad people didn't see it coming, but maybe it's the lesson that New Yorkers have to learn the hard way.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.